I genuinely need to know what motivates people to leak Nintendo games, because I don't see an upside for them. Today we are going to be talking about that and much more, because today is the last Monday of the month, and as it is tradition on this channel, we're going to go over all the Nintendo news that happened this month. As per usual, there will be chapters down below, so feel free to skip to any story you'd like to hear, but for now, let's not dilly-dally and let's go right into the video. As per usual, the first section we look at is the games that released this month, and this month, there was actually quite a few. Starting off with the biggest one is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Last week I made a video whether Luigi's Mansion 2 HD could be considered a scam. I would, however, like to make a clarification. I'm not calling the game a scam, I am just simply exploring whether it could be considered a scam. And the only reason I bring this up is because I saw a lot of people online express their feelings that maybe the game's not worth the full price considering how little has actually been changed from the 3DS original. There was a lot of interesting conversations that did come out of it, so I would strongly recommend checking out the video after this one. I'll have it linked at the end. However, I would like to remind you two things. One, I would really recommend you watch the whole video before jumping into the conversation, and also two, I do bring up some common critiques about the game, but just because I critique a game, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. To me, the likability of a game is more of a spectrum than a on and off switch. It's not like if someone has one little negative thing to say about a game, that automatically the game is bad. But yeah, just keep that in mind and check out that video after if it interests you, but for now, let's keep moving. This month we also got a lot of additions for the NSO service. Starting off on June 6th, we received 5 new Game Boy games. So the games were Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Mega Man 4, and Mega Man 5. Then on June 18th, we got another 4 games added to the service. We got 2 GBA games, so first we got Zelda 4 Swords and also Metroid Zero Mission. Then we also got Turok Dinosaur Hunter and Perfect Dark that have been released under a new app, NSO Mature. One thing I don't like though about these NSO drops is I don't like it when they have too many games dropping all at once. Yes, it's super fun the day they drop, but I much rather they kind of spread them out a little bit more, like show us a roadmap maybe. I feel over the whole Switch generation, Nintendo's kind of been all over the place with the release schedule for the NSO app, so hopefully in the next generation they'll have that fixed. But at the same time, when I say they should have that fixed, hopefully that doesn't mean we have to start from zero and then every month they drop one game, because that would kinda suck. Now let's move on to the next section, the new rumors that started this month. On the rumor front, it was pretty quiet. There was only one real rumor that I can remember. And that rumor started because Hollow Knight was going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online game trial. This led to a lot of people believing that Silk Song would be featured in the new Direct happening this month, which unfortunately, as we all know, did not happen, so that means our one and only rumor of this month ended up being a dud. Typically in this next section, we would be talking about the Switch 2 news or rumors that happened this month, however, there were none, so I guess we gotta skip it for this month. Which brings us to our last section, General Nintendo News, to which I divide into 2 sections, starting with Rapid Fire News. The first news flash is Play Nintendo Tour of 2024 has been announced. For those who don't know, basically this is an event where there'll be a lot of photo ops and people can go out and try a lot of Nintendo games. And they will be touring around a lot of cities in the US. Next, Nintendo reveals this abomination. Disgusting. I want it so bad. Next, Nintendo slightly redesigned the Switch Online home screen. And for the last rapid fire news is my personal favorite. Basically, in China, a woman was busted smuggling 350 Nintendo Switch game cards in her bra. If you want to read the story, I will have it linked below. But before moving on to the next section, I just want to say something right quick. If this is your first time here, hey, my name's Acadrien, and I post weekly Nintendo videos, so if that sounds like your cup of tea, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider liking and subscribing. And with that out of the way, let's go right back into the video. Now it's time to move on to the bigger stories, the biggest of all being the Nintendo Direct. Never have we ever had a Direct announced so far in advance, and a lot of people, even though we had such a big runway leading up to it, we had a really hard time figuring out what was going to be in it. Of course, there was nothing about Switch 2 in there, just as they promised. Mind you, some people thought that there was a Switch 2 game, but I assure you it is not. Overall, it was a absolutely fantastic Direct. There was so much just games. But it wasn't just one type of game, there was a lot of variety as well, which was really nice to see. But I mean specifically for the first party Nintendo lineup. The smallest announcement was definitely that basketball was coming to Switch Sports, which was a little random, but I mean, hey, free update, so you can't complain. And another remaster has been announced in the form of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. But the next 4 games were hands down the biggest announcement of the Direct. Right out of the gate, Mario and Luigi Brothership looks amazing. Personally, I've never played a Mario and Luigi game. Even though technically I do own one, I bought a big bundle of GBA games with a GBA in it, and Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga was in it, but I never got around to playing it. But this game looks so good. The art style is so... oh, I just love everything about this game. I absolutely cannot wait for it. Next, we had Super Mario Party Jamboree. I haven't been excited for any Mario Party game in so long. I'll be honest, I've never ever been excited for a Mario Party game. Growing up, don't get me wrong, I played a crap ton of Mario Party 8 on the Wii, but it was never like one of those series that I really held that near and dear to my heart. And every time that there was one in a Direct, usually I'd be just like, you know, okay, moving on, next. Like, it never stuck out to me. But Super Mario Party Jamboree looks so good. And it's so funny because one of my friends said, hey, if there's a new Mario Party, will you be getting it so we can play together? I said, no, absolutely not, because I never do. But I will admit, I genuinely can't wait to play this with my friends. Next up, we had a first for Nintendo. The first ever Legend of Zelda game that you actually get to play as Zelda. And no, we're not going to talk about the CDI game. Overall, I'm way more happy and excited for this game than I am concerned, but I do have a couple concerns. However, I'll save all those opinions for another video for another day. But this new Zelda game is absolutely my game that I am the most excited about from this Direct. And yes, even more than the next one, the big one, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This game looks absolutely insane. You can barely tell that this is a Switch game. And yes, I do think this is honestly just a Switch game. Like, who knows, it might come day and day with the Switch 2, same way that kind of Breath of the Wild did. But I do believe that what we're looking at in the trailer is how the game will look and run on Switch 1. Interestingly enough, I did run a poll on the community tab on my channel, asking what new first-party Nintendo game has you the most excited coming out of the Nintendo Direct. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of shocked with the results. Don't get me wrong, the sample size of this vote is rather small. Only 113 people voted, to which, for me and my channel, I think that is an absolute win. I'm very shocked with how many people voted. So thank you for all of you that did vote. It is very appreciated. But I don't think this vote is indicative of the Nintendo community as a whole, I guess you could say. My prediction was that Metroid Prime 4 was going to win, but actually, Mario and Luigi Brothership won by like half of the vote. A bit more than half of the vote, actually. But yeah, with all that being said, that is all I have to say about the June Direct. But now it's time to move to the final story of the day, and honestly, I personally believe that this is the biggest one of the month. This story is the one that was hinted in the title. What motivates people to leak Nintendo games? Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love when the leakers start talking. Whether it's true, false, I don't necessarily think it matters. I think it's just fun to speculate, and it's kind of like gambling in a sense. Who do you put your trust into, who don't you? And I think it's just a fun activity personally. But typically when people do something, it's because there is something to gain. I personally engage with these posts because I find personal joy. That is my motivation for these leaks. Not that I leak anything, I just enjoy them. But on the leaker side, what is there to gain? If you think about it, it's really a heads I win, tails you lose situation for them because there's no really positive or constructive or good outcome in the long run. If you leak something and it turns out being false, people are going to dogpile on you on Twitter. But if you do leak something out and you are correct, people might be cheering on for you on Twitter, but then you have Nintendo that's going to be loading the barrel and trying to snipe you. And in this month, we saw the downfall of two of the biggest game leakers of all time. The first demise that was met was the one of Midori. Of course, this is easy for me to say now because everything is done with, you know what I mean? But personally, and again, you don't have to believe me, that's not a requirement, but I always thought something was up with Midori. At first when I did follow them, I had notifications on for whenever they posted, but I soon had to shut that off. One thing I didn't like about Midori was that they were always just revealing things, posting and posting and posting and posting, and honestly, it was a bit much, even for me. And a lot of people were under the assumption that Midori was actually a Japanese woman. I was personally unaware of all of this, but apparently Midori posted themselves that they were a Japanese woman, so that's why people were calling her a girl. Since I wasn't aware of that little part, I just kind of always used gender-neutral pronouns, I guess. And I do kind of have some proof that I was skeptic. If you do look at the main Nintendo news video, you will see that I do use they/them pronouns every time I do refer to Midori. However, in reality, Midori's actual pronouns are he/him because apparently he is a white man from California. And honestly, the whole thing went down borderline as a soap opera. At every twist and turn, something new happened. They were going to step back, but then they came back, but then they were outed. It was quite a kerfuffle. And to be honest, I don't even think I actually understand the full story. All I know is Midori is over, and maybe Pyaro as well. I personally did enjoy Pyaro quite a bit more, just because of the style and the way he ended up leaking games. It would always just be a hint, and a hint that was just vague enough that nobody truly really guessed it most of the time. So it really, it was fun. It was almost like a game. And Pyaro typically wakes up a few days before the direct to start giving out their hints, except this time, they didn't. The only tweet that he did put out was for us to manage our expectations. And that was pretty much saying that there was not going to be anything of note in the direct. But as we know now, that was very much not the case, so this was the first time that Pyaro was wrong. I don't remember whether it was the day of the direct or the day after, but a post was made on Reddit, and this post was speculating on how Pyaro might get his information. The person's theory was that Pyaro's source had access to the back end essentially of the Nintendo eShop. And apparently, typically, Nintendo would post some of these files ahead of time on the eShop so that they would go live during the direct. However, this time, they didn't. So since they weren't there ahead of the direct, Pyaro was unable to get the information before as well. The story is still evolving, but most recently, Pyaro did end up privating his account. So although the fate of Pyaro has not yet been decided, it doesn't look very good. But circling back, it brings me back to my main point. Why are they doing it in the first place? Because like I said, yes, it's all fun and games, and for me especially, right? Like, I have nothing to lose if I read, if I believe, or if I don't believe these posts, but for these people, there's a lot more on the line. And I don't see a future where the outcome is greater than the risk that they're taking. But by all means, please let me know down in the comments if you guys see an upside to leaking these games ahead of time. Because, am I missing something here? It's totally doable that I'm wrong, but I don't see any upside to it. But with all that being said, that's all I have for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing, and until next time, warao!